Hello students, today we will be having the explanation of the second part of the chapter of Hornbill. We are not afraid to die if we can all be together. Last time in the last video we had discussed about the introduction and we had studied about in the first part that what were the different kind of problems that they were facing till January 2nd. Now, when we start with the part number second in this part of the chapter, we'll come to know what happened on January 3rd and 4th, and the days ahead. So let's read this and let's have the explanation of this particular part of the second part of the chapter. Now it begins with something like by the morning on January 3rd, the pumps had the water level sufficiently under control. Now, my dear students, on January 2nd, what happened just because the pumps started working, the auxiliary pumps that were working at that point of time, so sufficiently things were under control and the water had been thrown out of the ship and rest things were taken into rotation in this way and people were working in rotation too. But we still were having a tremendous leak somewhere below the water line. Tremendous means immense, and water lines is a kind of a level normally when the water level it's a general water level normally reached by the water on the side of a ship, because it's just not that a ship is just above floating above the water. It's actually a part of the ship or the boat is actually which is part submerged in the water. So the particular line on the side of the ship of a boat actually where the water touches it is called actually the water line. So probably it is because of this water line, perhaps water is coming from that part of the water line, and there was a tremendous leak over there. And I found that nearly all the boats main rib frames were smashed. The main ribs, actually the frame of the ship was broken, and down to the keel. Keel means the base of the ship or the bottom of the ship. It was all broken. Now there was nothing holding up the whole section of the starboard. Now starboard, my dear, section is the side of a ship which is bulged outwards. That is called as starboard. Now hull, the whole section of the starboard hull is means as I told earlier also, it's the skeleton or the framework of a ship. So the whole section of the starboard side actually was also broken. So the ribs were broken, that starboard side was broken, and water was penetrating from that side. Water was entering into the ship from that side. We had survived for nearly 15 hours since the wave hit actually, but wave walker wouldn't hold together. It seems so that it's not possible for the ship to survive long, as it has suffered so many of the problems, and this ship won't be able to take these people long and too far, and long enough as for us to reach as to Australia. They were in one of the middle parts of the ocean, in the Indian Ocean, and they were really worried because there was no nearby. It seems as if there were no places nearby where they could actually get relief, kind of a relief where they could go and stay over there. They could pause over there and they could get help from over there. It was not possible, my dear students. Now, so in such a situation, so I checked for our chart. So we come to know that Gordon actually went to check his charts and calculated that they were actually two small islands a few hundreds of kilometers to the east. He found out on the map there should have been two islands on the map, and they would be facing in the near future. They might get in the near future ahead at a few hundred kilometers. One of them was Isle Amsterdam, and that was actually a French scientific base. Our only hope was to reach those pinpricks in the vast ocean. Now these islands are very small in size. If you see on the Google map, even if you try to find the island Amsterdam, it's just kind of dot, just kind of a pinprick is just kind of a dot over there. And to see this island, you will have to zoom it actually, so that you are able to see this particular island. You can see this island on Google Map also, and you are able to see that. So I wish you do try to look into this particular where it is, this particular place is. So there could have been there should be some two islands somewhere over there, and one of them was a scientific base, French scientific base, and the name of that island was Isle Amsterdam. Now, our only hope was to reach those pinpricks in that vast ocean, in that big ocean, but unless the wind and the seas abated, the only problem was if the seas actually stopped in the way, if the sea would have subsided, if the winds would have subsided in the violent way actually they were going on. So in such a situation, then only they could actually hoist the sail and move in a particular direction, which was not possible until that time. Our chances would be slim. Indeed, their chances would be actually very less that they would be able to reach this particular these one of these islands, and the great wave had put their auxiliary engine out of action. So even the auxiliary or the secondary engine was out of action. It had stopped working, my dear students. Now what happened on January 2nd? Now this whole thing was what I told today right now in this part was till January 3rd. Now what happened on January 4th? Let students read ahead. On January 4th, after 36 hours of continuous pumping, we reached the last few centimeters of water, and there was a very few less water left in the ship over there. Now we had only to keep pace with the water still coming in, and they had to make that water should not come inside the ship only, and we could not set any sail on the main mast. Just on the main pole, you can say, they were not able to hoist the main thing over there, so that simply because they were not able to do so, the pole might go apart. One of these things were the problems. There were broken planks over there, and that is why the ship also can break into two. Now we could not set any sail on the main mast. Pressure on the rigging would simply pull the damaged section of the hull apart. It might that pole, which is actually the main mast, that can actually break the whole ship in such a situation. Rigging is that particular place where this pole is actually fixed on the main deck. That is called as rigging. So if pressure increases more on that pole will break, and that brings also a chance that may also break the ship also into different parts. So there was a big problem over there. So we hoisted the storm jib in such a situation. A storm jib is a kind of a small mast, you can say, and in such a situation, and they tried having that so small heavy jib, and they headed for somewhere. I thought the two islands were, and they just trying to see where these islands were, and they moved towards it. Now, till now, in these days, they were having such a big problem, and they were not able to eat food also. So Mary found some corned beef and cracker biscuits. So Mary had some preserved beef so that they could eat, and they had biscuits also to eat, and we ate of our first meal in almost 2 days. So for the past 2 days they were not able to have food, but in after 2 days they were able to have some meal. But our respite was short-lived. As it's written, it was short-lived, my dear students. So short-lived respite means relief was short-lived. At about 4 p.m. black clouds began to building up behind us. So black clouds again came on the scene, and within the hour the wind was back to about 40 knots, and the winds also started blowing too fast, and the seas were getting higher, the waves were getting higher, and the weather continued to deteriorate throughout the night. And in this way, we come to know that even the weather again started worsening at the point of time, and it got deteriorated. And in this way, and by the dawn on January 5th, what happened? Our situation was again very desperate or hopeless, my dear students. Now, when I went in to comfort the children, John asked. John means Jonathan, so it's written in short. It's a pet name for Jonathan in short, so it's written over here. So when the narrator actually went over there to see his children, and John asked him, "Daddy, are we going to die?" Jonathan asked, "Daddy, are we going to die?" I tried to assure him that we could make it, and he just tried to assure his son that he would be able to do so. Gordon tried to assure his son, and but he said, "But Daddy," he went on, "we are not afraid of dying if we can all be together." This is actually the words of the son Jonathan, and that how comes the name of the chapter also. He was so not worried about his death actually, because he think if they would die actually, they would be still be together. Wherever they would have to go, they would still be together, and that is why the son didn't worry actually in such a situation. But it was something, a reply that actually shook the narrator from inside. It shook Gordon Cook from inside, and he went on, "We aren't afraid of dying if we can all be together, you and I, Sue and I." Sue again is the short form over here for Suzanne, again the pet name of Suzanne, so it's called Sue and I written over here. So I could find no words with which to respond. I had no words to reply. What should I be able to say to my own son? What I left was the children. But I left the children's cabin determined to fight the sea. Now he was so determined. He was so filled inside that my son has said so, and I will fight the sea at every point of time to save my children, to save my wife, and I will save my family. So he was now thrilled and filled from inside with everything, with whatever might he had, and that might was given obviously with the words what the son Jonathan had said at that point of time. And this is one of the crucial moments. Excuse me, my dear students. So to determine to fight the sea with everything I had. Now, to protect the weakened starboard side, and to protect the weakened starboard side, I had decided to heave to with the undamaged port hull facing the oncoming waves. Now, my dear students, he decided to actually displace. Heave means to displace the ship. He tried to turn the face of the ship. Just opposite, you can say, nearly opposite, so that the water cannot go inside the ship, penetrate inside the ship, and that is why the side of the starboard, which was actually hit by the waves and it was damaged, so that is why he turned the face of the ship and he just displaced it with the undamaged port hull facing the oncoming waves, the waves that were coming towards the ship. Now, using an improvised sea anchor, using a created sea anchor of heavy nylon rope, he had a heavy nylon rope actually, and there were two little plastic barrels or drums, you can say, of paraffin. Paraffin, my dear students, is a kind of a wax. My dear students, now that evening, Mary and I together sat together of holding hands as the motion of the ship brought more and more water in through the broken planks. We both felt that the end was near. So water was penetrating inside, and from the broken planks, and they both felt that the end was very near. But Wave Walker rode out of the storm by the morning of January 6th with the wind easing. I tried to get a reading, and he tried to get a reading on the sextant or the magnetic compass, my dear students, and then he went into the back chart room. Chart room is a place where there are maps kept over there, a strategy how to move ahead in the sea is to be done in crucial times. Basically, it's done so in problematic situations when things have to be changed. So it's a big room over there to study the different maps, especially the maps related to the where they are going. So back in the chat room, I worked on the wind speeds. He tried just finding out what the speed of the wind was, changes of course, how they have changed the course of the ship, the direction of the ship, the drifting. When we say the word use drift or drifting, it means the movement of the wind, and the current. When we say current, it means the movement or the speed in the course, the movement of the water waves, what was there in the sea. Now, in an effort to calculate their own position, because this is all very necessary, the way the wind is blowing, the way the stream of the water is flowing, that will help them actually to move forward. So he had to study how long will it take to reach to a particular destination. The destination that they had to reach there was Ily, Amsterdam. Now, my dear students, the best I could determine was that we were somewhere in about 1,50,000 kilometers of an ocean, looking for a about 65 kilometer wide island. Now, this is actually a 65 kilometer wide island, and it is just like a pinprick. And if you are finding it something as 1,50,000 kilometers of ocean, if you are finding this is something very, very small. Now, and if you are in a ship and if you deviate a bit of degrees, you would go into a different direction. So while it was something very crucial, they had to study that. And while I was thinking, when Gordon was thinking, this Sue moving painfully, she was filled with pain, and she joined him. She joined Gordon, and the left side of her head was now very swollen. Her left side of the head was swollen, and the eyes were blackened and narrowed to slits. Slits means that there was a small gap of the opening of the eye, and the eye could not be properly opened simply because the eyes were all swollen. So she could not just open the eyes, as you could see. In such a situation, on the front, she had drawn, in such a situation, the daughter had drawn actually caricatures of Mary and me. Caricatures means cartoons. She had made cartoons of Mary and me with the words, "Here are some funny people. Did they make them you laugh?" So in this way, the daughter Suzanne tried to make a caricature, and she had made a card, and she tried to give it to the father, and telling him that he is doing his best. So, did they make you laugh? I laughed a lot as well. Inside was a message, "Oh, how I love you both." And both means over here stands for father and mother. And so this card is to say that thank you, just to say thank you, and let's hope for the best. The daughter even says that it is the best word, Papa, whatever you are doing your best, and we just hope for the best. Somehow we had to make it. We had to find out where this particular island is, and we have to save our lives. Now, with this, we come to the end of the second part of the chapter. Thank you.